The following is an Investor Brand Network audio production via our audio press release solutions. As a multifaceted financial news and publishing company, Investor Brand Network utilizes its network of more than 5,000 distribution partners as well as other corporate communication tools to introduce public and private companies to a wide audience of investors, consumers, journalists, and the general public. Investor Brand Network's platform connects the investment community with companies that have great potential and a strong dedication to building shareholder value. The following audio press release may feature a client partner of Investor Brand Network. Investor Brand Network may have been compensated for the production of this audio production. Please be sure to read our entire disclaimer for full disclosure.
Network Newswire presents Investors Turning to Psychedelic Market as Renaissance continues into new wave of diseases. The emergence of psychedelic therapies as a popular investment a few years ago was mostly underscored by investors that rode the cannabis wave, seeing a brand new opportunity with drugs such as psilocybin, LSD, MDMA, DMT, and others to address hard-to-treat mental health diseases, namely depression, addiction, post-traumatic stress disorder, and anxiety. As strides are being made on those fronts, a second investment wave is swelling on the horizon that looks to feature expanded indications and bring new therapeutic options to disease with unmet needs. Psychedelics could redefine standards for care for chronic diseases and reshape psychiatry, including counseling practices among other things. Tryp Therapeutics Inc., OTCQB ticker symbol TRYPF, is leading this next wave of psychedelic drug development beyond mental health into chronic pain and eating disorders as the company advances its clinical programs. With a diverse approach, Tryp is joined by a shortlist of brand name leaders in psychedelics that includes Atai Life Sciences NV, ATAI, Compass Pathways plc, CMPS, Mind Medicine, MindMed Inc., MNMD, and Cybin Inc., CYBN, all of which are making significant strides towards validating the legitimate potential of a wide range of psychedelic-based treatment regimens. Psychedelic drugs are amid a renaissance that will see revenues rise from $2.82 billion in 2020 to $7.57 billion by 2028. Tryp Therapeutics is pursuing 5 indications in chronic pain and other indications with total estimated annual sales potential of more than $12 billion. Tryp has announced the submission of an investigational new drug IND application for its Phase 2A clinical trial in overeating disorders, is preparing to file another IND for a Phase 2A clinical trial targeting fibromyalgia. Tryp has partnered with the University of Florida to conduct a Phase 2A trial for overeating disorders and with the University of Michigan for its fibromyalgia clinical trial. New opportunities unlocking value. Market analysts are bullish on the rapid growth in the global psychedelics drug market. DataBridge Market Research foresees a 13.3% compound annual growth rate for the market to rise from $2.82 billion in 2020 to $7.57 billion by 2028. Analysts at DataBridge see a rising prevalence of depression and anxiety as key drivers. Again, while depression and anxiety indeed represent blockbuster drug potential and huge addressable markets, they are only scratching the surface. On Wall Street, investors are putting premium dollars on psychedelic companies within the biotech industry. Per psilocybin alpha, the aggregate value of psychedelic companies listed on the NYSE and NASDAQ exceeds $7 billion. Innovative companies are looking outside the box to differentiate themselves from the pack and capitalize on the robust therapeutic properties of psychedelics. For instance, research is underway to evaluate the use of psychedelics for Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and other forms of dementia where there are currently limited options with diminishing returns to address the symptoms. While not being used for cancer, psychedelics are being evaluated to help patients better manage grief associated with cancer diagnosis. Tryp Therapeutics Inc., trading under the ticker symbol TRYPF on OTCQB, is pursuing 5 indicators in chronic pain and other indications, with total estimated peak worldwide sales potential of more than $12 billion. Tryp expects to initiate 2 Phase 2A studies in 2021 and 2 more in early 2022, focusing on these indications. Despite 4 upcoming mid-stage clinical trials, the company remains relatively unsung among its much higher capitalized peers, as evidenced by a market capitalization under 25 million Canadian dollars. In addition to leading a second wave of innovation extending beyond mental health disorders, Tryp distinguishes itself by developing its proprietary psilocybin-based drug product. The company's drug candidates currently in development include TRP-8802, a standard oral form of synthetic psilocybin, and TRP-8803, a patent-pending formulation with a novel route of administration that is expected to improve the patient experience. Tryp can also trumpet an exclusive supply chain by which it procures active ingredients and drug products in quantities sufficient for clinical trials and commercialization, should the drug be approved. This is a rare capability among psychedelic drug development companies. The integrated cGMP supply chain affords Tryp another unique opportunity with potential to act as a supplier of synthetic psilocybin to the global research community. Blockbuster opportunities in pain treatment. ResearchandMarkets.com estimates revenue in the global chronic pain treatment market to progress 6.5% annually from 2020 to reach $151.7 billion in 2030. Tryp is focusing its efforts on areas of unmet medical need in this space, targeting fibromyalgia, phantom limb pain, and complex regional pain syndrome, each of which are blockbuster opportunities with the potential to generate over $1 billion in annual peak sales. Tryp intends to submit an investigational new drug IND application with the FDA for a Phase 2A clinical trial with the University of Michigan in fibromyalgia patients during Q4 of this year. The National Fibromyalgia Association estimates more than 10 million Americans suffer from fibromyalgia. Existing treatments such as prescription opioids, exercise, and stress management are mostly ineffective at best and deadly at worst, considering opioids are commonly prescribed to help patients with their pain. This is a market ripe for disruption by psychedelics, with reason for optimism as anecdotal evidence is mounting that supports the potential use of psilocybin for fibromyalgia. Going forward, Tryp intends to pursue clinical research in phantom limb pain and complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS. It is estimated that 1 million people in the United States suffer from phantom limb pain, including more than 60% of amputees. CRPS results from a misfiring of pain signals in the brain after injury, surgery, stroke, or heart attack. A rare disease, about 200,000 people in the US are affected by CRPS each year. As with fibromyalgia, existing treatments leave a lot to be desired. Overeating disorders and a major milestone. After recently filing an IND application with the FDA, Tryp is staring at another major milestone. The company anticipates that its first clinical trial, evaluating TRP-8802, will begin enrollment and dosing patients in Q4 of this year. This Phase 2A study will evaluate patients with overeating conditions, including binge eating disorder and hypothalamic obesity. For the trial, Tryp has partnered with a leading expert in the eating disorder space, Dr. Jennifer Miller, at the University of Florida Division of Endocrinology. Affecting up to 3.5% of females and 2% of males, binge eating disorder is a result of addictive behaviors towards food that can be difficult for patients to break. Hypothalamic obesity is characterized by damage to the hypothalamus, the part of the brain that produces hormones that control hunger. This disorder is estimated to affect less than 5,000 people in the US every year, yet there are no available treatment options for the disease. This means that Tryp could potentially utilize all available accelerated FDA development pathways. Reaching milestones, reduce risk, increases value. In the course of drug development, there are key milestones with each human study, including submitting an IND with and receiving acceptance by the FDA, enrolling the first patient in the trial, and then the final data read out at the end of the clinical trial. The FDA's expected green light to move forward with the University of Florida study places Tryp in an elite group of companies conducting phase 2 trials for psychedelic drugs, and positions the company as a pioneer in the field of psychedelics for chronic pain and overeating disorders. There are no assurances in clinical trials, but a drug moving through the clinical progression tends to build value for a company with each major milestone that is reached because of the potential for future revenue. Effectively, the risk profile decreases incrementally with each positive development, so shares rise, much like Nasdaq-listed Vaxarts did on August 2, 2021, with an IND approval. Phase 1 studies are performed to prove a drug is safe. Phase 2 determines the efficacy at specific dosing levels for specific indications. Phase 3 is similar to Phase 2 in purpose, only evaluating larger patient populations. In Tryp's case, the safety profile of psilocybin is well established, meaning the company can bypass Phase 1 and proceed right into Phase 2 trials. If the company meets its goals of initiating 4 clinical trials by the first half of 2022, Tryp could be on par with companies with market capitalizations that are tenfold or more larger than its own.
This audio press release is an original broadcast provided by Investor Brand Network, a multifaceted financial news and publishing company that delivers a new generation of corporate communication solutions, including news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and brand awareness tools. Investor Brand Network may receive payments for the services and solutions provided to its client partners. You should assume that the owners, officers, and directors of Investor Brand Network or financial analysts mentioned in this audio production may hold a position in and may intend to trade the securities on their own accounts. This audio production is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell any securities mentioned in this audio production. The information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be or should it be construed as investment advice. As in all investments, investment in the featured companies carries an investment risk. Listeners should review the companies thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This audio production by Investor Brand Network is not purported to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used and statements of fact have been obtained from featured companies and other sources but not verified nor guaranteed by Investor Brand Network as to completeness or accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see our full disclaimers and disclosures at investorbrandnetwork.com.